This video is going to cover section 10.8, which is disorders of the circulatory system, also known as cardiovascular disease, or CVD for short, and it is still the leading cause of death in most Western countries. Examples of cardiovascular disease include atherosclerosis, hypertension, heart valve disease, and stroke, heart attack, and aneurysm. So we will look briefly at each one of these. So first, atherosclerosis. This is an accumulation of soft masses of fatty materials, generally cholesterol, beneath the inner linings of arteries. So for various reasons, you can get an ulceration of the inner lining of arteries, and you get deposits of materials which are it's called a plaque. So plaque then narrows the arteries by protruding into the blood vessel, and then this results in restricted blood flow through that particular section of the artery. Plaque, it can also cause platelets to adhere to the arterial wall, which then forms a clot. Now, if the clot remains stationary, then it generally doesn't do harm, and it's referred to as a thrombus. However, if it dislodges, then it's referred to as an embolus, and a thromboembolism is a clot then that has been carried in the blood and has become lodged in a blood vessel. And this is where um, serious things can take place because of a dislodging of a clot. So here's a diagram of what that can look like, and where you have an ulceration of the wall of the inner lining of the artery, and you get a buildup of fatty deposits, generally cholesterol and things like that. So what happens then is that the opening of the artery then is restricted, and it impedes the blood flow, and then sometimes clots can form around them as well. So the artery can sometimes gets very severely blocked, so it really impedes blood flow, and so that's when the situation becomes somewhat more immediate, that it needs to be attended to, especially when it affects the arteries of the heart itself. And a heart attack is more likely to occur with restricted blood flow of the actual coronary vessels, coronary arteries. So hypertension, this is just another word for high blood pressure. And under the age of 45, blood pressure above 130/90 is generally considered somewhat high. Also referred to as the silent killer, because it may not be detected until an actual stroke or heart attack occurs. So oftentimes, high blood pressure doesn't actually cause any symptoms, and most people that do have hypertension, they aren't even aware of it. So it can occur secondary to the narrowing of arteries due to atherosclerosis, because you get the narrowed arteries, then it causes an increase in blood pressure because more force is needed to move blood through the blood vessels. So treatment then involves vasodilators. So just simply dilating the vessels, which will cause a drop in blood pressure, or diuretics. So that can actually reduce the volume of blood, and thereby actually reducing pressure as well. So heart valve disease, these are disorders that result in the backflow of blood, and these can range from mild to severe. Heart valves, they can be malformed at birth, or they can degenerate due to age, or infections can sometimes damage the heart valves as well. So results from narrowing, or what's also referred to as a stenosis of the aortic valve opening, or from mitral valve prolapse, um, which can be from an abnormally thickened leaflet of the mitral valve, which then protrudes into the left ventricle. So treatment involves repair of faulty valves in open heart surgery, or replacement with artificial valves, or valves even from animals or deceased humans. They've been used as transplants as well. The earlier artificial valves did have some problems with them because they weren't designed well to create ideal blood flow, and so sometimes what happened was clots would form around them, and then these would dislodge, and then uh, that would become then a thromboembolus, and so that could cause a stroke or other serious complications. But they've improved the artificial valves considerably, and these problems don't seem to occur any longer. But if they need to be replaced, it is quite a procedure. It does require open heart surgery uh, in order to deal with these situations. So stroke, heart attack, and aneurysm. A stroke, this occurs when an arteriole in the brain either bursts, and this is what's referred to as a hemorrhagic stroke, but still a stroke because part of the brain will lose its blood supply. But in this case, because of a burst in a vessel, and you get an actual bleed in the brain. Or by blockage by an embolus, so a clot that has been dislodged. So if you get a thromboembolus, which then lodges itself in an arteriole in the brain, that's what leads to a stroke. And so that then results in a lack of oxygen due to impaired blood flow to a part of the brain, and that causes a portion of the brain to die. And unfortunately, most of those cells that die will not regenerate. So that's one of the problems with the nervous system. Paralysis or death can result. So some of the common symptoms of stroke early on include numbness in the hands or face, difficulty with speaking, or temporary blindness. So if anybody ever experiences those kinds of symptoms, then one of the best things to do is to take aspirin immediately, which helps to thin the blood to a small degree, and call an ambulance, get them to the hospital as soon as possible, because they've gotten very good with clot busting drugs now, and so the sooner that those are administered, the less damage that will occur to the brain. A heart attack is when a coronary artery becomes either partially blocked, which is referred to as angina pectoris, and this results in a squeezing or burning sensation in the chest. When a coronary artery is completely blocked, then a portion of the heart muscle dies due to the lack of oxygen, and a heart attack, also referred to as a myocardial infarction, occurs. So this is where a portion of the muscle of the heart then will actually die. And once again, the problem here is that the cardiac muscle cells cannot regenerate. So if part of the heart muscle dies, that's a permanent thing, and it will impede the effectiveness of the heart from then on. So treatment includes vasodilators, nitroglycerin to dilate the blood vessels. An aneurysm, this occurs when there is a ballooning of a blood vessel, most often in the abdominal aorta or the arteries leading to the brain. And atherosclerosis and hypertension together can weaken the wall of the artery to the point where an aneurysm develops. If the aorta bursts, this results in a catastrophic bleed in the abdomen. And generally speaking, I guess about um, half of the victims to a situation like this will die before reaching hospital, and many more probably will not survive such an event. So the treatment then involves, if it can be detected before it bursts, then the damaged or diseased part of the portion of the vessel can be repaired with a synthetic graft. So it needs to be detected somehow before it actually bursts. So the treatment then, so if the coronary vessels are affected, then bypass operations can be done, and you've probably heard of this. And so it involves grafting arteries to bypass the obstructed sections of the coronary artery. So a segment from another blood vessel in the body then is stitched to one end of the aorta, and the other end is stitched to a coronary artery past the point of the obstruction. So stem cells, they have also been used to regenerate heart muscle. Stem cells injected directly into the damaged heart muscle of mice and rats. They differentiated into new heart muscle cells. I don't believe this has been attempted so much with humans yet. So this is quite new and still undergoing some trials. Bioartificial human heart has been grown actually by research group using cardiac muscle cells from a cadaver as kind of a scaffold, sort of a framework for a heart. However, I don't believe that it's actually resulted in a functioning heart at this time yet. Clearing clogged arteries, and this is what's referred to as angioplasty, and this involves inserting a catheter into a clogged artery. Then when the catheter reaches the site of the clog, then a balloon is inflated to force the vessel open. So a stent is a metal mesh tube that inflates, it expands, and then locks the balloon into place. So some stents are coated with medications that inhibit inflammation and scar formation. And then the balloon is or the stent is left in place then in order to keep the vessel open. So dissolving blood clots, thromboembolisms, they can be treated with tissue plasminogen activator. So the sooner that this gets injected into a person that's been affected in such a way, then the sooner that the clot can be dissolved and normal circulation restored, and with the minimal loss of tissue. Um, Aspirin also can be prescribed for individuals with symptoms of angina or stroke. So if somebody has had like temporary symptoms of angina or stroke, then oftentimes then they're put on long-term aspirin treatment. Artificial hearts and heart transplants. So here's an image of a human heart ready to be transplanted into somebody. And unfortunately, the need is greater than the supply, but great success is generally it's been worked at for quite some time, and so transplants are work quite well now if a suitable donor can be found. Also, artificial hearts. I don't know how widely used they are at the present time. I think they are still pretty much in the experimental phase, but hopefully um, that provides some hope for the future as well.